And we're just gonna wait for David. And it's Memorial Day weekend. Who knew? Like, I blinked and it's almost a month from town meeting.
I know.
Here he comes.
Hey there.
David.
Sorry I'm late, but apparently my Zoom was out of date and had to update.
Ah,
Don't you hate that?
Took a few minutes. Weird, yeah.
All right. It is 6:02. Raloon,
all
go.
right. So, so should we adjourn the meeting? Not adjourn.
No.
Sorry, not. I'm getting ahead of myself.
She is. She wants to
Open
eat
the
dinner.
meeting. Sorry, I'm hungry. Okay, so a motion to open the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So thank you. I was telling Raloon that the personnel bylaw change passed, goes into effect July 1st, doesn't require Attorney General review. So luckily I had pulled all the things that were in the bylaw out, put them in a manual. So the board actually took a vote on the 24th or the 29th to use that as the manual beginning July 1st. They want you to confirm it, but that would be the place to start. I've already started taking the old personnel, I shouldn't say old, but the separate policies the board had voted and incorporating them into the document. I'm gonna have to retable it, but I've already started doing that. So, but that is exactly what I had shown you actually before town meeting is the same document that they looked at and took a vote on. So, all right, let me pull my note. I keep notes for all these meetings, and I've started to do your minutes. We finally started using Zoom AI, so we're trying to get ahead of these minutes because we're behind with a lot of minutes. But all right, so you have a job description request. And if you would like, I can screen share this. If you remember, I sent a few emails about this. The board had initially had a conversation about the public works superintendent job description because we received the official retirement notice for Kevin Scarborough, who's our superintendent. And I had already started working on his job description and he was looking at some of my drafts, but at a separate meeting just to talk about this on the 13th, the select board asked me to pull together some more information. So I pulled a bunch of job descriptions from places somewhat in the area and somewhat not, a range of municipalities. And I did send that information out to you folks. But in the interim, between one email and another, I sat down with Kevin and we went over the job description again. And we refined a couple of things. And what he and I had talked about was trying to capture the fact that this job covers several divisions. It covers buildings, it covers transfer station and landfill, it covers wastewater and sewer collections, it covers roads, bridges, groundskeeping, it covers a wide range. So we were trying to capture as much of those division sort of nuances as we could. In the first job description you saw, and then in the second, not much had changed. And what I had done was I had gone through several of these job descriptions comparatively, the ones from other towns like Groveland, South Hadley. I tried to get one from Hadley and I couldn't. They didn't get back to me because I was really curious to see what Hadley's look like, but I wasn't able to find it. So I just did the best I could. And then we sat down, Kevin and I, a couple of times. Most recently was a few days ago. And he really outlined for me that we need to have certain special requirements. And I said this in the email. certain special requirements because we are a small crew, and this is essentially a working superintendent's position. And that's really the nuance here, particularly if you look at the difference between, say, the Montague job description and Deerfield's draft job description. Montague has a 20-person crew. And the only reason I know is because Kevin talks to the superintendent up there. We don't. We have at most a 7-person crew. So, and that's not counting wastewater. Wastewater has 4 individuals. So we need to have certain special requirements, which are licensing, a hoister's license and commercial driver's license, which is affectionately known as a CDL. Every 5 years, I have to remember what that means. So what you see in the job description, particularly in the essential functions, is a compilation from not only our tasks, but other sort of descriptions I've seen. And some of those key things that I pulled from other job descriptions was the second bullet here, which is ensures a safe and clean, efficient workplace and properly trained workforce. Maintains regular contact with consulting engineers, project engineers. This is towards the end of the page. Because you're monitoring your public works projects, your infrastructure, you're communicating, but you're coordinating, because a lot of the work that happens between the state and the town, or regional groups and the town, and even individual, like private nonprofits and for-profit companies and the town. So there's an emphasis here in terms of the accountability, the supervision, the judgment and complexity, and the nature and purpose of contacts that is something that fits within that G grade, but in some ways, because there are so many divisions, it can be very complicated. So Kevin and I were trying to tease that out without making it overly wordy. So I had cut a few things out too. I cut back on some of my words, and you'll see on page 4 here, I have highlighted municipal. I actually saw public works twice in the same sentence, so I removed them. But the point that the board had was they wanted you to sort of take a look at this and give them an idea or a recommendation as to what you thought it would look like. I will say they're still deliberating about how they want to pursue it.
What does that mean?
So in the meeting on the 13th, when I talked to them, I said to them, look, this is a good opportunity. You've got a retirement in front of you. This is a good opportunity to take a good look and evaluate how your divisions are operating. And the reason I said it is because I thought back to how the transition between the South County EMS chiefs happened. So the South County EMS chief left last June. The incumbent had left last June for another position. And the Board of Oversight put an interim in place and really took some time to evaluate the operation. So had the interim person dig into what was happening and sort of report back so that they could have a better bird's eye view almost of what was functioning, what might need a little bit of help, how communication was flowing, that sort of thing. And I remembered that experience, and I said that to the board, and they were fairly amenable to it. So one of the reasons they asked me to take this to you first is they wanted you to think about the job description. They wanted time to think about how they wanted to pursue the job description. And so that's really why I put this on your radar screen, and I'm taking a few minutes to explain it. Does anybody have any questions? And if you want me to, I can stop sharing.
I mean, I don't have any questions. My only, I went through this one. I didn't go through all of the other ones because that seemed like a lot of reading.
It's a lot of reading.
But my only comment would be this one, you know, I think is longer than every one of the other ones.
It is long, and one of the reasons is there's a lot of divisions to cover. And there
Um,
are some particular requirements here.
yeah. What?
So if you recall, and I just pulled this out of my head because I see it every time I see this job description and another job description.
Yeah.
Um, in this case, we have an occupational risk. When we talked about the SCEMS chief position several months ago, we had a similar situation. Not every job description has occupational risk or particular specific things outlined in the work environment. Administrative jobs don't have the same type of change of work environment that an outdoor job might have.
Mhm.
And so there's this nuance of the work environment and the occupational risk associated because this job is not purely administrative. It's a working superintendent's position. So that adds an element of length, David.
Mhm.
Was there anything else you noticed?
Top job.
It is, and there's a lot of planning and managerial functions that need to be identified. And so that was one of the biggest things I looked for in these other job descriptions. I literally had windows all over my two screens looking at elements of these jobs. And one thing I noticed is it's very complicated. There's a lot of planning, and there needs to be a lot of sort of check-ins in my mind. And so I asked Kevin about that. And he's aware he would have attended to give you some feedback. But that was the reason I met with him, so that I could sort of relay some of my impressions of my conversation with him. And there's a lot of feedback that needs to happen. And there's also a lot of sort of functional planning and looping back to check and make sure things are happening effectively. And so that was one of the elements that I was trying to capture. And so this, in judgment and complexity, you'll see managerial functions such as planning and organizing, coordinating, evaluating, controlling the environment, looping back to make sure you're talking to all these various peoples. I mean, we have meetings with DOT, we have meetings with the region. I mean, he does work with the Regional Council of Governments for procurement, but also for things like signage. I mean, we work with the Franklin County Solid Waste Management District, and the only reason I say we is because I get looped into a lot of these emails too. They're both administrative and functional, and so there's this real need to capture as much of that coordination as possible. And so we were trying to capture that, and maybe it's a little long. If you think it's a little long, tell me what you think I should cut. I know, right? I see
Yeah,
the look on your face, David.
right. It's like it does seem like there's a lot to do. There's a wide range of things being described. And I mean, it makes sense that Kevin, as having been the one to do this job, helped, really is integral to making this list of job duties and description. I mean, are we sure that that's, I mean, is this the exact job that we want to replace? Do you know what I mean? Like, or is it being considered that this seems like the opportune moment to try to make it more efficient or more, somehow to function better, but maybe it doesn't need to be changed. Maybe what we have now is exactly what we want in the next position.
Well, see, that's
You-
why I said to the board, maybe take a breath, and you could hire an interim. You could hire a consultant. You could put the position out if we have a working job description and see what comes back. I think I wanted to talk to you about it because those are the three avenues I see right now. The board's going to be thoughtful about what they want to pursue. But what I
mean,
wanted to do was bring the job description to you and sort of give you a framework of what I think I could tell them. And then you could conditionally recommend this. And if the board decided, or you could stay silent on it and say, we'll wait and see what the board decides in terms of whether they want to evaluate the divisions. Because this really is an opportune moment to take a good hard look at how things are operating and see what changes we might want to think about making. Because it really informed how the hiring process went with the chief's position over at South County EMS.
Now, is I mean, the whole sewer system is being rebuilt, and it seems like it's, at least from the outside, looks much larger and more complicated. Is that a bigger job to oversee that, or is that going to change things?
Not the wastewater facility function itself, because we have a chief operator.
Who would deal
And we
with
could
that?
make some changes with that. But the piece that really is key for the other divisions is the collection system. And the highway department handles maintaining the collection system. And that's really the piping. The treatment facility, in other words, the two plants, there's South Deerfield and there's Old Deerfield, each have a separate collection system that go to it. And that's really where highway is, and by highway, I mean that division. That's a connection point. Highway takes care of the collection system, but wastewater manages the facility treatment and all the things that go with that. They have staff and a chief operator to handle the facility, the treatment facility pieces. But you've got a highway crew that handles the collection system. So that's why the two are connected.
Well, I mean, this seems like such a niche job, like to have someone who can do all the things that are being described here. I just don't feel like I really know. Are they going to get applicants for this job? Are there people that fit this description?
There's quite a few towns that operate like this. So I don't know if you remembered, but Deerfield's organized, like it operates as a DPW. So several divisions under one superintendent, but it isn't functionally officially organized that way. There's actually a chapter of I forget what chapter it is, but there's a statute that has to be accepted in order to functionally be officially called a DPW. So Deerfield's always operated like that. One thing that, if the board chose to in some way take a look at the operations of all the divisions, in other words, have somebody come in and look at it and report back to them, that would give them an idea of maybe whether they should tease some things out so that it could be less of a burden. It is a big operation. And I know several superintendents that handle similar things. They have staff. We have a smaller staff pool, but we do have an assistant superintendent whose job is similar in that the person has to take up the slack and do certain things that are similar to what the public works superintendent does. So in the same manner that Chris Nolan, acting as the assistant town administrator, supports the town administrator functions by being able to do some of that work. There's that element. So there is some relief in that way, if that's what you're concerned about, Rulon.
I mean, so you're asking us to make the decision or the recommendation whether the select board should just make the decision themselves about how to move forward, or whether they should just use this given description and try to find a candidate, or whether they should pause and research more or have some kind of, consultant come in and evaluate the system. Is that what the choices are here?
Well, no. What I'm saying is the board asked me to give you job descriptions and see what you thought about them. What I did was I gave you a job description that's a draft that I worked on with the superintendent so that you had one document you could look at, but references to all the documents the board looked at as well. You tell me what you want to do, because functionally everybody is concerned that yes, this is a big job. You're not the only one, Balloon. But we also know that we have to continue operating, and the board as the hiring authority should really make some decisions around that, but the personnel board has responsibility to look at job descriptions and sort of make some recommendations about those elements. If there's other things you want me to tell the board, I'm happy to do that.
I mean, I have no problem with this job description as a job description. This is different than a job posting, right?
Correct.
And you're
It's
telling
just
us
the
that
job
the
description.
select board is going to end up figuring out at some point what direction they're going to go in.
Right.
When did they get notice that there was going to be a retirement?
So, David, remember we heard throughout the budget process that that Kevin was retiring. He didn't nail the date down until
Right.
2 weeks ago. He gave me
Yeah.
his notice is, so he's done July 5th.
Right. Okay. So presumably the select board will make a decision fairly quickly what direction they want to go.
I'm hoping, because
Yeah.
I think they need to, at least, if nothing else, if they want to get a consultant in, we need to make some headway to get a consultant in or get somebody in. If they want to take a look at this, they need to do it soon before Kevin.
Why would we want to take a look at, given our budget issues, as a consultant at a 7-person division?
Because it is a complicated job. And because there's a lot of draws on time. I think organizationally, and again, the reason I say this is because when we had that personnel transition in South County EMS, we noticed that there was a lot of stuff that was administrative that had sort of fallen off the radar screen or not been communicated to, administration staff that could really help learn, troubleshoot problems. And we don't know, and I give Kevin all the credit in the world. He is one of the hardest working people I know. But if I were to leave, the same thing would happen. People would notice, oh wait, that didn't happen. Or should we maybe look at a different way to deal with this? Because fresh eyes can see something that we don't normally think about because we're in the midst of it. So we experienced it with South County EMS, and Tim Hilchey had said that to me.
Didn't we? And
Probably a 3 or 4
we
weeks
didn't.
ago.
Wasn't the interim hire somebody from within?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then
The
and
interim
then you
hire was somebody from within.
and then you create a situation where that person likely is interested in the position, and then they may or may not get the position. And if they don't get the position, are we creating, needless bumming out of employees?
Well, you don't have to hire from within, and the board could do it if they did a straight consultancy. They just hire somebody that has some expertise in this, that works as a consultant, can come in for a period of time and evaluate what goes on.
Mhm.
Everything from the road repairs that get done to how people respond to collection system issues.
Mhm. Well, anyway, that's not our job. That's the select board's job.
But at least you have the framework for why I'm bringing this to you.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, at this point, I have no problem approving this job description as is. I
Okay.
suspect it'll go through some iterations with select board as well, maybe at some point, and come back to us. I don't know, but
It may.
yeah. So I would say we just keep moving along.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that sounds good. So, should I make a motion to approve this Public Works Superintendent job description as provided?
Second.
The draft. Okay. David Sharp,
David Sharp, yes.
Eric Farrell,
Yes.
and Raloon Bialik, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Um, all right. The other thing I wanted to talk to you folks about is, so now that the Personnel Board amendment with the bylaw change has been approved, there's a change in membership, and basically it's a reset as of July 1st. So David sort of has to deal with this on his own with Finance Committee. Because Finance Committee's appointment is annual. And I don't know, David, I have no idea what Julie's plan is for upcoming meetings. I know you'll probably have to have at least one to go over transfers and stuff before the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
But really, the change to the bylaw created a situation where there were 2 select board appointments, 1 moderator appointment, Finance Committee appointment, and then the elected employee. And so Chris Nolan and I are working on the elected employee function. So how do we create the process by which we do this? And it could be as simple, and this was Chris's suggestion, I thought it was a great one, as simple as a ballot that we send out to the employees that are qualified to vote. And it comes back to us, and whoever wins. He was going to investigate that, but he'll be away next week. So I'll have a little bit more information by probably the first week of June-ish about that. But for purposes of what you folks might want to do, if you have an interest, because this is a reset, if you have an interest, Raloon and Eric, in staying on the committee, I have a form that I can send out to you. It's called a committee and board application. And the board started using this form last year, the select board. And so if you wanted to be reappointed, if you wanted to be considered, I was going to tell you now that if you want to do it, I'll send you the information and you can send it back to me if you're interested. I didn't know how you felt. I know this isn't always an easy board to be on, although I don't know how much more onerous or less onerous it's going to be. I think there's always, from the administration side, I always try to make it as easy as I can. But I know sometimes that I don't communicate well. I talk too much. So I just wanted you to be aware. And I will send the form out. Other people may be interested in this too. That was the other reason the board sort of started using a form. But you needed to know that this reset happens as of July 1st. I do think that for purposes up till July 1st, I was going to ask if you would have a meeting in June, because there are some personnel policy stuff, the manual stuff that I wanted to throw back out at you for you folks to look at. Because I do think it's going to be critical as of July 1st to have at least, some framework for fleshing out a couple of things in the bylaw. Like, we could flesh out grievance. We have to put just approving some of these policies that I know need to be put in there, an ADA policy, just FMLA. We should have a policy that just says, okay, we frame it on the federal policy. Go look at the federal policy, just some basic stuff like that. But I wanted you to be aware that the vacancies will start happening as of July 1st, and to find out if you would be willing to meet in June. And then say, okay, I've got like 6 policies I think you guys should look at.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll say I'm if there's, people stepping forward who want to be on the board, and I'd be certainly, if there's a demand, people who want to be on it, I would be willing to step aside and let in some new blood, so to speak. But if there aren't, I mean, we've been trying to find people for more than a year, and so if we don't have people who are willing to do it and we're short, then I am very willing to stay on. So I mean, yeah.
Okay.
And I could meet in June if have to look at my calendar, but I'm happy to have a June meeting.
Okay, that would be great, and I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same mindset as Raloon here. So, yeah, recognizing the we've been operating bare bones-ish in terms of, quorum, as far as quorum goes for quite a bit. And so, this is important stuff. And so would want to make sure that that we can still meet the quorum so that that type of can be, can be discussed.
Thank you. I really appreciate that because I know
Yeah.
it's not easy. I do. I go to a lot of meetings and you guys are troopers because you're working just like I am and you're making the time. In my mind, I have to be here because I have that work to do, but you guys are volunteering, so I really appreciate that.
Maybe we need to provide better snacks.
That's true. We would have to sit down together. I am very good at cheese and crackers. I'm very good at that. I used to bring snacks to the local cultural council meetings. But that's a different story. Okay, so I will let the board know that you're still interested in serving. But if other people wanted to step in, you would also be okay with that.
So those are these two are, Raloon and Eric are select board appointments. Okay, so there's one moderator and then there's the elected person, and then was there anything else?
So there's also the town administrator. So the town administrator will stay,
Right.
or that,
Yeah,
or
of course.
designate.
Okay.
I alerted Dan Graves, the moderator, to the change, and I sent him a certified copy of the vote. And I was going to ask you, do you want me to send you a certified copy of the vote for your records? It isn't incorporated. The change to the bylaw is not incorporated online yet. It will take a couple of months for that to happen. So if you want a certified copy, I can send you what I sent Dan.
Of what? What were you saying? Of the vote?
The bylaw change. So what happens, a certified copy is actually a transcribed vote that's attested by the town clerk that says this is what was voted.
Yeah, I don't need that.
You probably don't need it, but if you wanted it, I was willing to send it to you.
Nice to know it exists, but
Yeah.
I don't have to see it.
Eventually
somewhere
we'll be
else.
able to find it online. So, all right, if we were to meet in June, when would you guys like to meet?
Let's see here.
Because that starts vacation season for a lot of us.
If we can avoid the week of the 10th, that would be
Yeah.
good.
Yep. Week of the 17th is the best for me right now, I think.
What about
Okay.
you, Raloon?
Yeah, I can do the week. I have the 17th as our standard third Monday
Yeah.
already
Oh.
kind of penciled in there. So that's a time that works for me.
Do you want to do it Monday the 17th?
Sure.
That would
Okay.
work.
6 o'clock?
Sure.
Sounds good.
All right. So what I'll do is I will put on the agenda, I'll mainly focus on the manual and start compiling. I don't know if I'll have it reorganized in terms of the table of contents and everything, but I'll start pulling those new the policies that the select board had already approved in, so you guys can start looking at it. Okay? Because
Yep.
the policies that the select board have already approved have already been vetted by council.
Okay.
But I don't give the select board policies that we haven't gone through council's approval with. So those are the things that I'm sure about. And that's why I wanted to start with adding those in. And I may just ask council to give me the FMLA policy that they would recommend. I've actually talked to council about it before, and she gave me a different town's policy manual that had an approved policy in it. So I may just capture that because she's already told me that works.
Mhm.
But I know the policies, the IT policy, social media, the anti-discrimination and anti-harassment policy, those have all been approved by council. So those are easy adds.
Mhm.
But I did want to get some of that in place before July 1st. All
Sounds
right,
good.
so the 17th at 6 o'clock.
Yep.
I will put together the agenda and make sure it gets posted. I don't know if I'll do it tonight, but I'll definitely do it in the next week or so, just so you guys have it. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
You should
Question,
adjourn.
David. I see a Wisconsin plate in the back.
Yes. Yeah. That's my wife's a cheesehead.
Ah, gotcha. I spent 3 years living out there.
Did
So,
you? Whereabouts?
Platteville,
Platt.
Southwest,
Southwest. Okay.
about
So
half hour from Dubuque.
yeah. Okay. Great. She was raised in Madison
Gotcha.
from
Yeah.
the age of 2, and then college as well, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I
Small
love
world. I was like,
Wisconsin.
oh, I recognize that plate. I used to have a plate just
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. What were you doing in Platteville?
I worked at the university for 3 years.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. 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 Fun. The whole upper Midwest is great. I don't know if like the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was able to get there up there a couple of times. I have an uncle who moved out there after Vietnam, got a job at the Ford plant in
Oh, yeah.
St. Paul and worked
Yeah.
there for 30 some odd years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Great.
Man, I like Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah. I mean, I think those 3 are pretty, yeah, livable.
Michigan's full of really nice people that drive slow,
Yeah.
but are very nice to you on the road.
And a lot of lakes up
And-
north and woods and
Yeah, and you get to the
love cherries.
oh my gosh. We
Yeah,
have
my
friends
wife
that
and I
own a
did an
cabin
anniversary
at
trip
the Upper
to
Peninsula.
Door
It's
County.
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, Door County. It's great. Fish fries.
Yeah, we made our way.
Fish
That
balls.
was like, yeah, I was like, okay, where do we want to go for an anniversary? It's like, oh, let's go
Yeah.
out there.
The Cape Cod of the Midwest,
Yeah.
they say. Yeah.
Nice. All right, that's
Fun.
something somebody's gonna have to tell me where to go because I like those places.
That's the
that's cool.
it's basically the thumb of
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin that juts up into the, I guess that would be Lake
Up by
Michigan.
Green Bay.
Yeah, north of Green Bay.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been out there. That's a trip we could take.
Yeah. You should.
He
2
wants
days
to go to
drive.
Green Bay.
All
All right.
right. I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right. So
What?
David Sharp,
Aye.
Eric Farrell,
Aye.
and Rulun Bialik. Aye.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All
Thank you all.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Thank you.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Bye.